So we switch pace now to put the spotlight on a company that everybody's watching as it expands outside its home borders. Here to talk about its investment strategy, please welcome Shiwei Zhou, Head of Ctrip Investments, ctrip.com International. Shiwei?
Into a fake white studio. Back when we were hot shit, used to play with matches. We were living like a couple criminals. Remember when you broke it, running through the tall grass? Thought that you could always be an animal.
Morning. Hi.
Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you. Okay. Do you want to sit? Do you want to sit here?
Sure.
Okay. How are you?
Good, good.
Good.
Thanks for having me here.
It's an honor. So I was reading about you, and you are what is called in Chinese. If my pronunciation is wrong, forgive me, because it's a very tonal language. Haiqiu, is that right?
Haikui.
Like haikui. So haikui is like a sea turtle because he went to the U.S. and then returned to China, right?
Yeah.
To work. And I read in an article in March 2016 that you returned to China because it was partly the sense of obligation towards after-work drinks and talk of ice hockey.
Well, I think that was somewhat a joke. I mean, basically, I was staying upstate New York, so people there are really big on happy hours, drinking, and hockey, because there's a lot of leagues there, people playing hockey and after work. So I think that's good and fun, but I think my pursuit is somewhat different. So that's why I decided that maybe my long-term career probably lies with China.
Okay, so you returned and then you joined Ctrip. So talk about why you chose travel, and then why Ctrip.
So when I was in the U.S., actually I worked as a buy-side analyst. Actually, I covered technology stocks, international and domestic, including Microsoft, Google, and also internationally will be BAT, Ctrip, and other ones, NetEase, Shiwei, etc. So there's lots of learnings along the way. You kind of realize how the Chinese internet companies morph into these juggernauts over 7-8 years. When Baidu was in the mid-2000s, Tencent come out in mid-2000. They all come public around that time. And later on, 10 years later, they become the industry leader. Essentially, you cannot get around them. They are so dominant because Chinese market is so big and it's so homogeneous in a way that if you have a good concept developed in Shanghai, 3 years later, you can pretty much cover the whole country with the backing of financial capital markets. So it's very viable, very fast-forward action in China. So you realize you have to really get involved.
Yeah, and so you wanted to be part of that growth, obviously.
Yeah, I read a lot of people's biography along the way.
So you've been with Ctrip now about more than a year, right?
Yeah, year and a half, 2 years.
Right. So what is your primary goal at Ctrip? What did they say to you? Shiwei, go and change something. What's the mission here?
Yeah. Generally speaking, I think a lot of Chinese companies, at least the good internet ones, they generally encouraging people to develop as a person, as a professional. So a lot of things, actually, they are not giving you assignments, ask you to do certain things. Actually, you are the one who decides, like, I came from the US, I realized that's how people do in the US. I think it's more efficient. Maybe in the long run, probably better use of everybody's time. Or these things is lacking because nobody ever look at it. So let's do it, I think that's how things evolve in my career at Ctrip so far, is that a lot of things I decided that we can do better because my perspective is so different from everybody else's working there for a while. So that's how I did it. So we do a lot more things now. So at this point, I lead the investment department and the IR department. So my responsibility at this point is trying to make strategic investments on behalf of the company so that we can create a stronger ecosystem that helps to widen the moat, make us much more sustainable longer term. Also pave the road for the future growth, looking for new opportunities because we are relatively established in domestic market that growth is harder to come by. Nevertheless, we see potentials in tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities. We are less known. We are not known, actually. Some people never heard of us in the past. That's one. So
2 areas of opportunity is in the secondary cities, tier 2, tier 3, and then obviously globally.
Correct.
So you've had a year. You've attended a lot of travel conferences. I know you've been making a lot of contacts. what are some of the areas that interest you? Because you're talking about strategic acquisitions to build a C-Trip ecosystem. What's missing? What are you looking at specifically?
I think you talk about international markets. I think that's very broad for us. There are many things we can do, and there are a lot of things missing, actually. We think we are just a student in the international market.
So name 3 things that you feel are missing right now in the C-Trip plan of things.
I think we want to broaden our product offerings. At this point, for example, we have just acquired Skyscanner. We have air ticketing meta search platform, but obviously we can do a lot more with the transportation product offerings. We want to have more content. Not just if someone in Europe go to our website, or some Chinese coming to Europe go to our website, they have more content for them that will be more ideal, because they will be coming to us at the very beginning of the funnel and doing exploring, planning, and then using our products along the way.
So it's interesting because earlier we had Tim Hughes of Agoda, and Agoda, he was saying that Agoda would not buy anything in travel, but they would buy everything else that would support there, but you are looking specifically at travel.
I think I would say broadly. I think we need to strengthen our product offerings. So we need to bring people to our platforms. Mainly, I'm talking about non-Chinese people, because I think that's something we need to spend some time on as well.
Okay. So how is the union of the Chinese dragon and the Scottish unicorn working out? Is it a happy marriage?
Oh, totally.
And Skyscanner has said because of this, they're going to evolve into a marketplace. Is that kind of influenced by C-Trip, because that's your playbook?
I think, generally speaking, the part of the reason the ecosystem is very powerful is because they create a much stronger competitive advantage. You can just not compete on one thing, but many things, and that makes the competition much more intense, much harder to lose to other people. So I think that's part of the reason we think Skyscanner is broadening their product offerings. I think, first of all, it's a very successful investment so far, and we have very healthy, friendly working relationship. Actually, I just had a drink with one of the colleagues at Skyscanner. So we found that relationship very productive. We're very much respectful of them, and likewise. So we're trying to make this work as best as we can. And I think our company are so complementary to each other.
Right.
I think that's a very natural way for success.
So privately, though, when you talk and you had a drink with your colleague from Skyscanner, do you talk about the possibility of this Google threat? Because everybody's saying that Google's going to become the biggest meta search, is going to displace the meta searchers like Kayak or Skyscanner. Do you talk about that?
Not so much. I think Google has their own interest, their own priority, and Google Flight and those products obviously overlap with industry players, but OTA industry been here for a long time now, since the days of Priceline, Expedia to now, I think has been very thriving. Look at Priceline's recent financial results. It's pretty impressive. As big as they are, they still can grow this fast. So I think Google plays a role in the value chain. I think it's an important role, but I think they have their own priorities. I believe there's also obstacles they need to think about, and it's maybe regulatory concerns they need to address before they really do something more full-blown, more drastic.
Okay. So in the last earning calls, James Liang, your executive chairman, he really focused about outbound travel. The outbound travel in foreign markets, and he says that really Chinese passport holders account for less than 10% of the population, compared with 39%. So massive growth. So are you looking at acquisitions specifically in this area to help you with that outbound growth? And can you name a couple of companies or spaces that you're talking in this area?
Totally. I think James, he actually spent a lot of time thinking about acquisitions. So we definitely want to lay the foundation for future expansion internationally.
So how much of a has he given you a war chest? Has he said, okay, this is how much you have?
We have a strong balance sheet. I think that's the war chest we have. I think as a public listed company, I think we have leisure to sit on a large pile of cash, and there's no time limit in terms of when we need to spend that or when we need to get them back. So I think we have all the luxury to do things we want, we see fit, and our priority is mainly how to spend the money so that we can create a more sustainable sea trip and bigger sea trip down the road. So that kind of thinking is very long-term, very fundamental, operational driven.
Okay.
So I think that's our
So
sense.
when I was at a tech event in Singapore, 2 weeks ago, somebody said, oh, start a business and then sell it to China. And somebody said, oh, I will start a travel company and sell it to Sea Trip. It's not that easy, is it?
No, I would like to think we are not that dumb.
So what do you, when you look at something, what do you want in a company? What do you look for in a company?
So actually, that gets back to our investment philosophy. So generally speaking, we want to focus on travel-related to the most extent. We want to focus on travel-related because I think it's important to be focused. So we want to have create synergies, whether they're going to be give us a new market, new technology, or just new relationships. So those are the things we think will strengthen us, and that's what we focus on. And second of all, we want them to be the industry leader, the vertical leader, so that we want them to be able to operate on its own. We want to have synergies, but also on the other hand, we want them to be sustainable.
On their own, like your investment in My Trip.
That will reduce our investment risks too. And third thing, with obviously valuation. I think for us, we are definitely not go and compete on pricing alone. That's not something we want to focus on. We don't want to give the impression that we have a large war chest we just spend on anything. That's not the case. Actually, if anything, we are on the conservative side in terms of valuation. We want to make sure that there will be synergies created, there will be a strategic value to the company being acquired so that we can create a win-win situation. In that sense, the upfront payment might not be as high, not the highest.
Okay, so other than acquisitions, you also, James also talks a lot about innovation, right? And he says if you don't disrupt yourself, you'll be disrupted.
Totally.
So you have also started an incubator for startups, right?
We do.
So can you name one really exciting startup that you're working on right now?
Outside the company? Or?
No, within the incubator that you
So
started.
we do have a platform called Innovation Works that's led by one of our head of BU. Essentially, what we do is, like you said, there are a lot of things we can think about, can we do better? But from an organization standpoint, if you are working 12 hours a day, you're not going to have time to commit to innovation. So we do give some people leeway, let them to do their own thing, and then pitch them.
What can you do better? What are they working on that they feel Ctrip can do better? Is it AI? Is it chatbots? Is it virtual reality? What is it?
A lot of things, honestly, are incremental because as established as we like to think we have done a good job on many verticals. So there shouldn't be in a revolution kind of things come out. It should be more incrementally benefiting the user experience, like luggage storage, temporary luggage storage while you're in the city. They can put the luggage for you from the airport to the hotel and then bring back to the airport, to other location you designated. That's the thinking. Those kind of one example.
So incremental, okay. So if I was a startup in Europe now and I want to have Ctrip as a partner or as an investor, what's your advice? What should they be doing?
I think it's probably the same as the most typical successful startups, right? You need to find the pain point of the user, the travelers, and then you actually address them in a way logical and sustainable, and then hopefully it can be transferred to a larger platform and create scale, and then grow from there.
Okay, so during the first panel, we talked about what could we be talking about 12 years from now, right? And then Fritz said, Ctrip, Alibaba, or Tencent. Who will be the biggest travel company then? Who do you think it will be?
Ctrip.
Ctrip.
Well, I think that's. I mean, people like to think there's a, we have to fight out with all beat out all the big players to survive. That's not the case. I think travel is a very specialized, unique industry. A lot of players trying to get in. Google is one of example. Obviously, the other BAT, there's some other players trying to get in. It's very specialized, and then it's not purely. Can be automated. There's online portion, but there's offline portion. There's supplier relationships. You have to bring people one-on-one online, and there's fragmented supplier segments that you need to really spend a lot of effort just to manage the supplier relationships.
Right.
Those kind of things, it's not a flick switch and then you turn on across the country.
So if you had all the money in the world, like I asked, Fritz, which you do have because you have a big, you have big financial results, what company would you buy?
What way? Like what kind of company?
Yeah, wherever. It could be Elon Musk if you wanted, but what company would you dream of buying?
I think for me to make this kind of comments will be very hard and then kind of not practical, honestly, because eventually you have to get down to business and then we talk about the synergies and potential upside.
All right, so we have like a few seconds. I'm going to just throw out a name, and then you just give me one word, OK?
Okay.
Booking.com,
Strong,
Expedia,
diversified,
Airbnb,
unique,
Didi, Didi Kwai Di,
changing,
WeChat,
dominant,
TripAdvisor,
evolving,
Google.
specialized.
OK, good. Thank you very much, Siew. Thank
Thank you.
you. Thank you. Thank you, Siew.